I look really crazy. We're gonna do my makeup and gossip about Henry VIII because let me tell you now, I have so much to say about Henry VIII. I don't think anyone quite knows the intricacies of what this man has been up to. He's a dirty dog. He is a murderer. The list goes on and we will get into it. Divorced, beheaded and died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. If you're a horrible history lover like I am, you will know that Henry VIII, he is so wild. He is so wild. And it's pretty safe to say that he was just a horrible person. However, what the history books don't tell you is that Henry VIII was gorgetastic. Unfortunately, it's always good looking ones. It's always the good looking ones. I think it's because like good looking men just don't know how to act. And also he was king, which probably didn't help the ego thing. But he was basically documented as this 6'2", strapping, handsome man. He had these big calves. He was athletic. The ladies loved him. And on top of that, he spoke like Latin, Italian, French. Like he was spitting game in different languages. He had riz across the world. And he was king. So he didn't even really need riz, to be honest. Okay, so Henry VIII's first wife was Catherine of Aragon. Now, you might be thinking, oh my God, it's such a love story. How did they meet? Were they betrothed to each other? Catherine of Aragon was married to Henry's brother. Let's start right there. So Henry had an older brother called Arthur. Now, we don't really know much about Arthur because he died. So there wasn't really much to say, R.I.P. Arthur. Catherine of Aragon's parents thought, this seems like a wasted potential for our Spanish daughter princess. Where should we send our little girl? To the deceased boy's younger brother. So Henry got the sloppy seconds, okay, diva. So you might be thinking, how is that allowed? The first marriage between Arthur and Catherine was annulled. I think it was because it was never consummated or something. So they basically just wrote it off. Annulment was just a really like fun way for royal people to be like, yeah, it didn't even count. It was just a joke. We were just kidding. So I think he was about 17 when he married Catherine of Aragon. And Catherine of Aragon was older. She was a cougar. Because obviously she was married to the older brother. Like, she was an old lady. Go on, Henry. Go on, Catherine. They were actually married for such a long time. Not everyone knows this. They were like together for 24 years. That's time. That's time. Especially back then when people just died all the time. Like, that's impressive. However, it was definitely not always sunshine and rainbows for the pair. Catherine of Aragon actually had a really hard time with childbirth and labour. She gave birth to quite a few stillborns, I believe, but she did have one healthy baby girl who will later be known as Bloody Mary. Not the best rep, not the best reputation, not gonna lie. And you might be thinking, well, why did their marriage not last? Because our guy Henry was obsessed with men. He loved man. He wanted a boy. He wanted an heir to sit at his throne. And a girl was just not going to cut it. So when there were no men coming about, there were no baby boys, he was thinking, well, you're useless. That's basically what he was thinking. But you know what's so outrageous? So he was thinking, where can I get this baby boy from? Because it's not coming from Kath. It's not coming from Kath. So he looked around and he thought, what about the ladies in waiting? Who caught Henry VIII's eye, you may be asking? Anne Boleyn, of course. Do you know how they met? Anne Boleyn was Catherine of Aragon's lady in waiting. Do you know how wild that is? That's like your boyfriend going up to your friendship group and being like, oh, who's that one of who's the brunette? That's my friend. That's not friend. You're my husband. That's my friend. What? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But he was king, so absolutely yes. And Anne Boleyn was a savvy woman. She was absolutely having none of it. She was like, well, I'm absolutely not going to sleep with you if you are still married to her. Are you joking? You fancy me? I fancy you too. But you're still married. Was this because of morals? Of course not. She's not a girl's girl. She's Anne Boleyn. However, she had her head screwed on and she thought, I see a very nice chance of being queen. She saw the crown and she thought, I'd like a bit of that. So Henry went to the Pope. He went to the Vatican because obviously they were all Catholic at this point. And he went, mate, please, annul the marriage. Bin it off. I want a son. I want a son. I've got a new bird. I don't want Catherine of Aragon anymore. I'm so over it. He was so over it. The Pope turned around, and one thing to know is that Catherine of Aragon was a devout Catholic. She was in on the Bible study. She knew the verses. She knew the lines. She was not playing. She was not playing around. And truly, the Pope was having absolutely none of it. The Pope was like, jog on, are you joking? I've already annulled a marriage for you guys. I'm not doing it again. You've been married 24 years. Please. Ugh. The Pope just thought that they were like gonna get over it and not be dramatic about it. But Henry was a really bit of a drama queen. Henry thought, well, if you're not going to annul my marriage, I might just go around and make a whole new religion, because that's the rational thing to do when you fancy someone. You make a new religion, right? So that is exactly what Henry did. He made a whole new religion, the Church of England, the Protestant Church, which is still around today. So guess he did it with his chest, you know? He literally became the head of his own church so he could grant himself a divorce, which, I mean, he's a go-getter, I guess. Like, I don't really know what to say to that. I'm like, is it impressive? But the main thing is I just feel so bad for Catherine, because she just kind of, I think she just lived the rest of her years in a nunnery. She died shortly after, I believe. Probably from like heartbreak. She really loved this man. She really loved this man. And this man was just like, I'd love you if you gave me a son. So she just lived in a nunnery for the rest of her life, really, and was devoted to God. And yeah, when we learn what Henry later does, maybe it was a good thing. She's low-key probably better off in a nunnery than at risk of getting her head chopped off. To be fair, I don't think she ever would have got her head chopped off, because she was a Spanish princess. And I think only maybe like one of his other wives were royal. So it's like, you can't chop a princess's head off, mate, unless you want war, especially with the Spanish. God knows, in a few years, there's a whole armada. We can get into that in a different video. At this point, I think when Henry met Anne Boleyn, he was about 34 and she was mid-20s. She was my age. She was my age. Her boyfriend basically made a whole religion for her when she was in her 20s. I can't even get text back. She was getting a whole religion made for her. I need to reevaluate my life choices. Henry basically just made a whole religion so that he could marry Anne Boleyn, because she was adamant she was not going to sleep with that man until they were married, husband and wife. Until she had the crown on her head, no touchy, absolutely not, stay away. Anne was basically just playing hard to get, too shy, but like not shy at all. She was egging it on. She was loving every second of it. Anne Boleyn could also not give Henry a boy, but she did give birth to Elizabeth. So the pressure was really on Anne, because she was not birthing a boy, and this was her whole thing. This was her whole job. This was the whole thing. She was like telling him, like, I can give birth to a boy. She can't do it. Catherine of Aragon couldn't give you a boy, but I can. Where's the boy then, babe? Where's the baby boy? There wasn't one. When Jane Seymour caught Henry's eye, and you're old news, mate. You're old. You're get in the bin. Get in the bin. Or in this case, get your head chopped off. She was arrested on some scandalous charges. I'm not sure if she actually did cheat on him. I guess no one really knows. No one really knows. So when he found out that she allegedly was sleeping around, Henry was fuming. Henry was basically accusing Anne of things left, right and centre. He was like, treason, adultery, incest. Incest? That is wild. With her brother. Okay, Anne, again, we don't know if it happened, but we don't know it didn't happen. She was arrested and got her head chopped off. Yeah, so sometimes I think that I'm a petty ex, but then I'm like, well, I never beheaded anyone. So imagine. Moving on to Jane Seymour. Now, Jane Seymour was the exact opposite of Anne Boleyn. Jane Seymour was too shy. You can come to me. I'm not pursuing this. I'm shy. I'm just a woman. I'm just a woman. That's what Jane Seymour was like. She was very submissive and just let Henry do whatever he wanted. Whereas Anne Boleyn had an opinion on everything. Janie had no opinions. Janie was like, yeah, Henry, you go, Henry. You're the best, Henry. Yawn. However, also fair. Maybe she was just acting. Maybe she was like, this is just how I become queen. Who knows? After Anne's execution, Henry wasted no time. Henry thought, time is of the essence. I want a son. And Janie delivered. They had a baby boy. They had Prince Edward. Now, Edward was a very sickly child, and I think he was king briefly when Henry died, but he was poorly. He was never very well. So he died quite young when he was on the throne. I also just think it's so wild that she was part of Catherine of Aragon's crew. She was another one of the friendship group. Another lady in waiting. That's his type. His type is lady in waiting. Like, I just can't imagine it. Like, your husband's just eyeing up your friend. Your husband's gonna marry two of your best friends. Are you joking? These women used to bathe me. These women used to dress me and do my makeup and hair. And now they're sleeping with my husband. Gagged. Can't believe it. Can't believe it. So yeah, long story short, Jane gave him what he wanted. But Jane did die very, very soon. I think it was like 12 days after childbirth. She passed away, unfortunately. And everyone always says, oh my God, she was the one. She was his lobster. She was the one that he loved. She was the only one he ever loved. was he loving her, or was he loving the son? Because in my professional opinion, he obviously just would have loved anyone who gave him a son. Are you joking? However, she was the only one to be given a queen's official funeral, and she is the only one who's buried with him in Windsor Palace, Windsor Castle. So, I mean, I guess they're together forever. That's a slay. Is it a slay? Not really. What a sad little life, Jane. Bless her. Yeah. And next we have Anne of Cleves. Anne of Cleves was a German baddie. She came from the House of Holbein. They sent over a portrait, right? And she looked so fit in this portrait. And Henry thought, do you know what? Just ship her over. I'm going to marry her. I'm going to marry this girl. Everyone will have you think that it was, oh my God, on the wedding day, Henry was like, oh, she's a horse. She's ugly. She's ugly. That's not what happened. Here's the real goss. Have this young German gorgeous girlie, right? She's shipped over. She's like, okay, I'm going to marry this king, whatever. Right, I'll get on with it. The night before her wedding, this old, morbidly obese man comes into her room and tries to kiss her. And she's like, oh, get off me, you freak. This is what Anne of Cleves does. She's like, literally, get off me. You're a minger. Get away. Why? Because we... She's scared. She's just like, oh my God, 999. This oaf who tried to kiss her, you guessed it, Henry VIII. It's Henry VIII. And so on their wedding day, he was a bit offended, as one does. He was butthurt. Of course he was butthurt. He's a man. He was like, oh no, she didn't fancy me. She wasn't being, oh my God, I'm so sad. So he thought, well, I'm going to get her back then. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell everyone she's a minger. I'm going to tell everyone that she's ugly. I'm going to tell everyone that she looks like a horse. Does she look like a horse? No, I wanted to kiss her 10 seconds ago. But she turned me down. And I'm a king. How dare a woman have the audacity to turn a man down? So that's what he did. He told everyone that she was a minger. Was she a minger? No. This poor woman married this man. Out of all of the wives, I would argue she actually had the best fate. 6 months later, the marriage was annulled due to not being consummated. Probably wasn't consummated, to be fair. I mean, actually, maybe it was. I have literally no clue. I wasn't there. Shock horror, I was not there in the Tudor era. The marriage got annulled and she got a get out clause. But the thing is, they actually really quite got on, and the king liked her. The king was like, actually, she's pretty sound. So what I'm going to do is set her up cushy. She can have a fun. She can have a whole palace. Like, she's funded. She's set for life. She's won the lottery. She's set for life. And she doesn't have to go near that man. She doesn't have to go near him. She can live away in her own private life, just chilling. She became a rich bitch. She was given the title of the king's beloved sister. That's what I mean. Like, they got on. They're just mates. They were like siblings. Yeah, so she just lived comfortably in England for the rest of her life. I think, do you know what? Fair play, Anne of Cleves. Fair play, Anne of Cleves. I respect you. I respect you. Also, I would argue one of the best songs on the 6 soundtrack. So, shout out that. Okay, so we're getting on a bit now. Like, Henry VIII at this point is in his late 40s. He's had this, like, right, so he actually used to be really fit, young and athletic at one point. He fell off a horse. He had this, like, leg injury and he had this grim leg. But a lot of sources say that after that leg injury and after falling off the horse, he actually changed a lot as a person and, like, he kind of became horrid and vile. Which is kind of wild because he was previously beheading people. So I fear he may never have been lovely. I fear maybe them sources are wrong. The 5th wife, we then have Catherine Howard. Now, Catherine Howard was a lot younger than Henry. Let's keep this all in mind. She was young, she was fun, she was flirty, she was thriving. Until she met Henry. At first, she loved the attention. She was like, oh my God, the king fancies me. He's a bit of a minger, but he's a king. He's literally a king. Are you joking? Jackpot. Apart from not a jackpot. Not a jackpot. Shock horror, guess how they met? She was Anne of Cleves' lady in waiting. She was a lady in waiting. Yawn over it. Fine. Oh my God. But I guess they didn't have Hinge, so literally what were they meant to do? What were they meant to do? A portrait or lady in waiting? Obviously. But the blush is kind of blushing. I'm a blushing girl. I'm a blushing girl. Oh my God, I'm so Jane Seymour. So Catherine was young, fun and fresh. And Henry was loving it. He was lapping it up. He was just like entranced by how like young and youthful and fun she was. She was bringing a little bit of spirit to him. Like, he was old and boring. And she was bringing the vibes. She was bringing the vibes. And he loved that. And he was like, let's get married. And she was like, yes, sick, I'll have a crown. So then they got married. Catherine Howard had a bit of a fruitful past. She had a little bit of a history with men. Henry was not a fan of that. Henry thought, no queen of mine has ever been touched by another man. And Catherine Howard had. When she was 13, her music teacher Henry Maddox was 23. This was the start of Catherine's love affairs. She also had another one, I think he was like Thomas Derham. So when court found out about her previous affairs, Henry was fuming. He was fuming. And he thought, you slag. Divorce, beheaded and died. Divorce, beheaded. Survived. Spoiler alert. Yeah, poor Catherine was executed for treason. That's so peak. That is literally so peak. I really feel for her. She was beheaded and imprisoned. Well, imprisoned first in the Tower of London. Yeah. It's rough. It's rough being a Tudor woman, I'm telling you now. I'm so glad I'm not a Tudor woman. But they did get nice dresses, so silver lining. And finally, we have Catherine Parr. See, Catherine Parr was a little bit more experienced than the rest of them. She had been widowed twice already. She was a beautiful woman. She caught Henry's eye, and Henry thought, go on then, 6 times the charm. She kind of was like a stabling influence on his life, to be honest. Like, she was just chill with it, and he was getting old, he was aging, probably dying because he was so unhealthy, just eating like loads of swans and stuff. I feel like she was a really clever woman, but she wasn't bossy like Anne Boleyn. I feel like she had a way of like getting her way subtly. She was an intellectual queen. However, it is actually really sad because she was in love with someone else. She was in love with Jane Seymour's brother, Thomas Seymour. Now, Thomas Seymour was a looker, they say. So who can blame her, really? But because Henry wanted her, she couldn't date Thomas, which is so sad. Like, imagine just seeing him all the time at court and being like, oh, he's so cute, but I'm stuck with this oaf. However, she did in fact outlive Henry. So when Henry died, guess who she married? She married Thomas, and they lived happily ever after. Apart from they didn't. They got married, and shortly after they had a baby. They had a baby girl called Mary. However, a few days after she died, after childbirth, it's always the childbirth death. It's so sad. It's so sad. Just when she got her happily ever after. No, literally stop, that makes me want to cry. Not me crying over Catherine Parr. However, you know, her legacy lived on. It should be noted that she was fighting for female education. She was like, I'm smart and the girlies are too, as if the men are educated and we are not. Come on now. Yawn. She also had her portrait done by a woman. Come on, we love a female artist. Women in STEM, women in art. Yeah, so that's kind of the end of Henry VIII. I feel like he's so interesting. Also, I know that everyone always thinks that he had 8 wives because he's Henry VIII, but he actually had 6 wives. It's like an easy mix-up, I get it. In conclusion, Henry VIII was a dirty dog. He was a dirty dog. And kind of a horrible person. It's the beheading of it all. I just feel like that's never the vibe. That's never the vibe. Don't behead someone you love. Imagine, one day you're, you know, waking up together, oh, I love you, next day. Savage cabbage. I would like to do a shout out to Six the Musical is so good. I was listening to the songs this morning. It kind of inspired me. House of Holbein, the Anne Boleyn one. I feel like I want to do another one of these. I really just love history. I'm such a little history nerd. I need a new topic. What can I delve into next time? Maybe like witches or pirates. Maybe that's too broad though. Is that too broad? Really strong urge to just like listen to loads of horrible histories now. I'm in my history era. I'm in my history zone. I'm in my history zone now. Thank you. Pretty sure Catherine of Aragon actually died and they found out she had a black heart. How sad is that? She had a black heart. Like cancer or something, that her heart was black, but it's like, he did that to her. I kind of just feel like it's like a manifestation of how he treated her. Her heart turned black. She loved him so much and he was just a little horrid rat to her. I'm so sorry for all these women. They all deserve so much better. That's the moral of the story, is that they all deserve the world. And his poor daughters, oh my God. Imagine just feeling so rejected, being like, oh yeah, I'm not a boy though, I'm not a boy. If ghosts are real, like imagine if Henry VIII's ghost is just like knocking him out somewhere. Where do you think he'd hang out? Probably at like Toby Carvery, I feel. Or maybe like a church of England. I don't know. Or maybe somewhere with loads of women. Yeah, probably like a brothel, let's be honest. But yeah, thank you for watching. Have a wicked day. Yeah. Bye.